All right. Well, here we are at our initial Commerce Corner podcast. We have Adit Gupta, our CEO. I'm Justin Jackson, our CRO for Lula Commerce. Say hi, Adit.
Hey guys, Adit here. Welcome to Commerce Corner, and it's exciting to be able to democratize the knowledge that we have to help further digital commerce across retail.
So, you and I have been having some conversations, and obviously, we stay really close to our customers. And there's a number of things we've been hearing from our customers. And I thought maybe might take a minute and just talk briefly about what we're hearing as far as why people want to get into delivery.
Yeah, the more we speak with folks around the country, it's a lot of the same intrinsic motivations. I've seen someone order from my family. My son orders, they use one of the delivery apps to do it, or something like, my biggest competitor down the street I see drivers going in all day. Like, what's going on? How are they making so much more in revenue from all these different delivery apps? I just see drivers coming in and out. And we've been hearing a lot of things like that. But what about you, Justin? What have you been hearing?
I love the one where, we're talking to somebody and they say, our CEO is telling us that their son is at college and continues to order from our competitors. And so he or she is tired of seeing it and we want to get online so that they can order from us. Like that's a pretty specific motivator, but it's also a very real one. And it's kind of representative of what we're seeing in the market from customers these days. I mean, customers want delivery when they want it, where they want it. They don't want to get in the car and go, shopping as much. We've seen that in the economic data. We've seen it in the pace at which restaurants come online these days. So it seems pretty ubiquitous that whatever can get online for delivery is headed in that direction.
Yeah, convenience stores have this unique value proposition that allows them to be a lot more versatile than even restaurants. Maybe let's talk about that. Why convenience stores and why digital commerce? Like, what have you been seeing there?
Yeah, I mean it's in the name, right? It's convenience. I mean the intention is like, hey, we are near our customers, we are in their drive path, we are in their neighborhoods. We see it in the names of certain banners, corner markets and neighborhood markets and that sort of thing. And I guess it's kind of the original neighborhood store, if you will. And so, um, convenience stores have such broad selection. I think we see kind of on average between 4 and 5,000 SKUs, but some of the bigger ones between 18, 20,000 unique SKUs that are so close. And so when you think about delivery and you think about what we see kind of late at night, off hours as kind of a bigger percentage of delivery, what you see are people saying like, I want that. I want it fast. I want it right now. What's available? And they go on these delivery apps. And so our customers and convenience stores in general in the market are seeing their customers demanding that level of truly convenience.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, from the unique selection, what we're seeing around the country is more and more stores have unique CPG products. Distributors are actually trying to get emerging CPG brands to use the convenience channel to get these products live. We have first-in-class locations that are open for larger chunks of hours in the day. So brands that are open 24/7 now have these unique CPG brands, but also have specialized foods, which makes them incredibly valuable. It's like 24/7 distribution center. I'm also interestingly seeing this COVID tailwind for delivery kind of further. Delivery overall impact on a business, we thought it would sort of plateau, which what we're seeing is there's more and more consumer demand even 3, 4 years after COVID, which to me is quite interesting on just how consumer behavior works.
Yeah, I think you get a taste for it. I guess here in the Austin area where I am, I remember it was a big deal when the restaurant started delivering alcohol. It was like such a shock to the system. Forever and ever, it was like absolutely not, no open containers out the door. And then all of a sudden, COVID, it's like, how do we stay alive? And I think we taught ourselves a lot of things that in any other environment we wouldn't have learned. And so you start to see it kind of take off. So COVID was definitely kind of a great catalyst. It shook us. It didn't feel good at the time. Still doesn't feel good now, honestly. But it certainly put a shock to the system and opened many eyes to the possibilities and the levels of demand. I mean, I never would have predicted the level of demand today that we saw in delivery. So I think of it more as instead of like that was a COVID factor. It was like COVID was just the catalyst. COVID was just the change agent at the time. But the real difference is that it's going to exist. It's going to continue to grow because people got that taste, and it's not going away.
Yeah, it's it's interesting because we're seeing that trend globally, and I couldn't agree more. As we dive into our podcast and theme of Commerce Corner and everything related to digital commerce, we've gotten a bunch of requests from folks that we've spoken to of starting this, from things like retail media to things like how digital commerce works to different types of delivery. What have you been hearing about? What do retailers want to hear about to learn about this space?
Well, I think the biggest one I hear about is profitability. It's kind of like, okay, um, we know we have to be online. We know we have to make our products available to stay connected with our customers. I mean, that's kind of the essential, business theme, right? You have customers, stay connected to them, listen to them, give them what they want, serve them, meet them where they are. We hear all of these things, and they're always true. But at the end of the day, businesses exist to make money. And so you either have to make money in the process of delivery itself, or you have to believe that by breaking even or even losing a little bit in delivery, you make more money elsewhere. But the net has to be positive. And so we hear that a lot. And so that takes us into a different conversation where we have to say, okay, you need to look at your overall digital commerce ecosystem and what is your approach. And that's where we've, of course, been spending a lot of our time as a managed service provider, as a strategic partner outside of just how do I get online. I think a lot of customers think about, a lot of merchants think about, I'm not online, I want to be online. So I flip a switch off to on. And we do that, of course. That's the part of our aggregation. It's the very basics. And we get the main delivery service providers, or you'll hear us say the word DSP. We get the main DSPs engaged, but it's so much more than that. It's once you get live on these delivery service providers, how do you compete? Because one of the things that is a surprise to a lot of our merchants is that uh, the DSPs view these customers as their customers. And honestly, they should. I mean, they spend a ton of marketing dollars. They get app downloads. They drive the app downloads. They figure out and listen to the customers. They deliver the food to the customers or the goods to the customers. They serve the support calls if the customers are upset. Although there's always the issue of kind of merchant blowback if things don't go well, and that's a whole different episode. But it's their customers, and so how do you take this service where it starts as their customers and make it work with your customer view or your view of your customers, and how do you drive profitability there? And I think there's a win-win for everybody. I mean, every channel's got customer acquisition approaches that ultimately bring them in from somewhere else and make them theirs and make them loyal. So I know we'll have many, many more podcasts to talk about that, but that whole theme of getting online, but then working within this DSP world, working and understanding that they're their customers, and then growing into ever increasing profitability is something we hear a lot of.
Yeah, well, there's a lot to unpack there, from third party to other channel conversion to who owns the customer and the data. And you bring up a lot of good points there. Um,
Yeah, we hear a lot about integrations in addition. So how do I make it easy for my back office? And what I would say is um, this is a whole bigger topic than just integrations. I mean, what's the root cause here? Or the root question is, I don't have that much extra bandwidth in my staff to manage this and make this happen. So, what does it mean to be online? And this is where I think the intersection of profitability and capacity and bandwidth and know how and strategy and all that comes in, because you get online and then it's like, well, now I need to update my price book sometimes twice a week, my inventory. What a lot of folks don't realize is that if you are out of stock and you don't let your channel know, let the delivery service providers know, and a customer searches and tries to add to cart and they don't get it, they get that what we love to call a cold prickly, like, oh, sorry, it's out, this didn't get delivered. That doesn't feel good, and the delivery service providers know what that feels like to customers, and so they start punishing you and they start sinking you in their visibility on their apps. They can even turn you off for a period of time and kind of put you in a retailer timeout. There's a lot of things that can happen negatively if you're not managing it. but that's a friction point with the level of capacity that you have as a retailer these days. So that's where, of course, we have conversations about all of the different managed services that we provide. And in fact, it is the reason we provide them, because we are good at it. And we know that across all of these delivery service providers, there's a lot of work to be done. So we grab that work, we do it, and we act as literally an extra set of hands, a lot of hands, to keep you up and running and help contribute to that level of profitability.
Yeah, good thoughts there, Justin. I think, staying on the theme of economics and managed services, we've been hearing a lot of folks talk about, is the lemon worth the squeeze? If they deploy all these resources internally to make digital commerce work, do those economics work out? What are your thoughts on that?
I think there's absolutely a way to make it work. I think one of the things I talk about with a lot of our merchants is that if you look at this as relative to your retail margins, you're going to be disappointed, because if you have 40% COGS, and the delivery service providers charge 30%, 20% if you're with us, because you get our rates passed through, of course. But then you have the Lula's fees to get online, to stay online for all the BI and the managed services. You can mark it up a bit, and you can kind of offset a lot of that, but your margins compared to retail are still going to be less. So you have to think about it as almost a separate P&L, parallel P&L, if you will, where you're thinking about it as, these are incremental orders. And it's true, because what we hear from customers and surveys and market research is that about 81% of delivery orders from convenience are incremental. I would not have gotten in the car. I would have just, gone through my pantry. I would have ordered a restaurant. I would have, done something else, or just gone without. But instead, because it was available, I placed the order and got it. So if you have incremental revenue at 81%, you're still cannibalizing 19%, but you start watering down that, looking through that flow of the economics, and you're actually getting net income. You're getting a net positive out of it. That is, you have to assume that you're not hiring a bunch of extra staff, that you're not spending a bunch of existing time and burning out your staff to do it. But yeah, you can absolutely make a positive economic story out of this.
Yeah, it's interesting because the positive economic story is feasible, but a lot of the things that you mentioned earlier, with merchants often being punished for bad overall operational metrics, it just becomes a harder kind of pill to swallow as a retailer. It's, how do I deploy the right resources to improve my operational metrics? And knowing all of those hours put in, will help with incremental sales, but it's the lack of expertise sometimes that may hinder brands from significantly improving sales quarter after quarter. And what we've been hearing is a lot of brands start with delivery and they essentially plateau, because it's like, how do I get my sales to grow? And any insight, Justin, on incremental sales, great. Another parallel P&L. Now, what's the trick? How do I get my sales to grow quarter after quarter after quarter?
Well, I mean, your levers are, let's just go through all of them. Your store hours, right? If you're not open as much as everybody else, your orders are not going to be as significant as your competitors. So it starts with 24/7 open or significant hours. I mean, we see over 60% of our demand in delivery kind of after 9 p.m., like that overnight window. So if you're not open late, your incremental orders are going to be less than everybody else. Selection is the other big one. So we have merchants who will say, here's my top 500 items, top 700 items. Let's start there. That's okay. But what you don't think about is some of the search to cart metrics. So if you think about it from a customer's perspective, they open up the Uber Eats app, the DoorDash, Grubhub app, and they're searching first for a store. And so they say, okay, you're surfaced pretty highly. They click on your neighborhood market store, and then they search for 20-ounce Coke. No problem. Everybody's got 20-ounce Coke. But then they search for something else and it's not there. And immediately that's a negative, right? It's the search to add to cart conversion. Because that's a negative, you now have one strike against you in the delivery service provider. So selection is a big deal. Selection is also a part of basket size and productivity, or the overall profitability. Because let's say that you have the best local pizza in town. Somebody comes and they look and they want your pizza, and they go to your store and they know it's there and they order the pizza. Well, they're going to add a Diet Coke. They're going to add a Coke. They're going to add something else to it, 6-pack of beer. and they're not going to be as price sensitive on those items. So you go immediately from competing for price on 20-ounce beverages where if price is even, it becomes a speed game. Well, you can get it to me in 15 minutes. The next person can get it to me in 20 minutes. Great, I'm going to go with you. But you're less price sensitive and you're less speed sensitive if there's something unique in the basket, something unique in the selection. So that's why selection wins. There's about 8 or 9 different metrics that we could go all the way through, and we'd be delighted to have that conversation with any one of the merchants interested. But that's how you succeed. Now, you plateau at some point, right? Because you only have so much capacity, you only have so many selection. There's only so much density of customers in your area. The key is to not plateau for the wrong reasons, right? Your goal would be to kind of maximize your investment in assets and labor and whatnot and marketing to your business and reach the highest level. And then you open your next store and your next store and your next store. And we, by the way, help with location analysis too, because we have a way to look at, kind of where locations should go and kind of an estimate of demand from a delivery perspective in those areas. But overall, there's a number of factors that influence that level of plateau, where it is, and profitability for the level at which you do plateau.
Yeah, interestingly, you can go a step deeper within each one of those growth levers. For instance, we've been seeing folks even utilize the type of selection to influence their overall margins for this sort of parallel P&L. For instance, companies like Casey's, Wawa, QuickCheck will spend a lot of time building really solid, unique selection through food service, which generally have higher margins than specific CPG items that tend to sell more, and build an entire strategy around that, whether it's through selection as a secondary brand or selection as a mechanism to buying other CPG items. So I mean, it's interesting because that is just the tip of the iceberg. You can go a lot deeper into your dynamic pricing strategy, and some folks will spend a lot of resources and 10 to 15 full-time heads to figuring out this problem. But economically, does that equate the benefit of the incremental sales coming in? Does it cancel out? Is it a net positive? That's the perspective that a lot of retailers sometimes will not think about, which is interesting because it's definitely a hard problem to really get right.
Yeah, I mean, the groups that can afford to add that level of heads, that level of investment, it's really the upper end of overall store count and revenue. For everybody else, you have to figure out how to be scrappy and how to grab knowledge and expertise where you can. And we're certainly in the business of providing that. We love doing it. We're passionate about the space. But it's difficult if you're going to go down the path of just add a bunch of heads and try to be positive economically about that.
All right, well, good chatting, Justin. We have a lot more to share, and we'll catch you at the next episode of Commerce Corner.
We'll be there. See ya.